JB here. Hope everyone's doing outstanding. August 22nd, about 3:18 on this fine Thursday, the eve of Jackson Hole and Fed Chair Powell. I keep some reason I keep messing up the last part of the word. But either way, really quick, it's probably gonna be the quickest rant I've done, and those are my famous last words. Then it's gonna be a 20-minute rant. But just really quick about the market, some of the trades I took on, and some thoughts into tomorrow. But take a look at the S&P and the SPY. SPY's down about 0.75% now. That 555 handle. I mentioned it last week. Friday was a rock on the upside. Provided resistance, cut through that this week, and then earlier this about 2 o'clock or so, it provided support. So definitely a key area. We'll have to see how things play out into the close. Hopefully we don't get down there and test that. If we do, hopefully that holds. But the big news will be tomorrow, and it's such a hyped event now. It's almost like you have to think most of the most of the scenarios that could play out are baked into the market, right? So if I would assume this is what Powell's going to do, he's gonna do the Goldilocks, not too hot, not too cold, walk the tightrope of at least setting the stage for rate cuts in September, not committing to 0.5%, and I think that'll be enough to keep markets at least supported. And you'll have to see. It's going to be volatile. I don't know if there's going to be a statement before his speech at 10 o'clock. Typically, when there's a market moving speech by a Fed chair, there's prepared remarks. They come out usually before they open around 8:30 or so. That's a possibility. But that's kind of the thought process there. We'll see how that all plays out. But I you know I would love to see some chopping. You take a look. The S&P is setting for 3 weeks in a row to the upside. We're still up 0.4% on a week despite today's pullback. Consolidation. It's sometimes it's good, right? It takes out some of the over exuberance in the market, and then we can start to look towards new all-time highs. That's the hope here. The bad scenario will be that Powell surprises the market in some way, to overly hawkish tone, kind of pairs back some of the optimism in regards to cutting rates, doesn't really set the path for the rest of the year, and then maybe there's maybe that's a scenario that we go down and we start looking at the 50-day moving average again on the SPY, which 546 and change. So those are kind of the scenarios that are possible. I think it's going to be the former. I think he's going to be able to walk that tightrope. Markets, they'll be volatile up and down. There's always shakes, knee-jerk reactions, and then maybe we can find some support, close over 560 into the weekend. I think that'll bode well into next week. So that's that. If you take a look at the trend for the market, and I put this on the watch list, it seems like over the last couple of weeks, every morning not every morning, most mornings we rally about 10 o'clock or so, then reverse into the red, and then find a bid, and then start to bounce and back into the green. Seems like we do that every morning, except for Tuesday and today, right? So Tuesday and today, we found open at highs in the green, sold off into 10, 11 o'clock, and then just couldn't find a bid, and then at lows. So I'm not saying that's going to be a scenario here for lows into the close, but it's definitely something to watch. All right. So, and then last but the IWM, and I put I finally added a line here at 215. It's almost like a line in the sand. It seems like the SPY doesn't want, the IWM doesn't want to break through that trend line. And also, ironically enough, that's kind of the lower box of my bull flag, which was setting up in July. So would like to see that broken. My thoughts on small caps. I think those need to be the stocks that lead the next leg to the upside, or at least lead into the end of 2024. Hopefully that'll happen. All right, so individual names, and I added more Redfin calls. I'm going to try, and I always say I'm going to do this, and then I just time is right. Time is a commodity, and sometimes that commodity I don't have much of, right? So hopefully I can find some time to type out or do a rant on Redfin to lay out kind of my bull case. But the more I look at it, and we have home sales tomorrow, that I think that could be the next leg. Then you have obviously the possibility of some rate cuts in September. I think that could be another leg. And then you look at their last earnings in regards to Redfin, they're going to be there, or they talked about possibly being profitable into the back half of this year or the start of next year. Take a look at its competitors, and Zillow is probably the best one-for-one comparison in regards to what their business does. Although their hands are in a lot of different things. Zillow's hands are in different things with their premier agents and all that. I can go on rants for a while for Zillow as well. But if you look at Redfin, it trades at a serious discount to Zillow. So any kind of positive outcome for Redfin in regards to profits or outlook or even their business news, it's almost like all the negativity has been kind of priced in, and any positivity will send it higher. I don't know if positivity is a word, but thrown in there anyway. So that's why I went and I got the September strikes. I was looking at October's. I'm like, let me just go further out. If it continues to have momentum, we get the home sales tomorrow. Rates, maybe there's a half percent rate cut in September. I think it trades 14, 15 and beyond, right? So it's one of those names I've loved back in the day. You start looking at the fundamentals, and it's a little tough story to get bullish on when it doesn't have the growth that it used to have. But if there's a big boom in regards to home sales, folks who have been sitting on the sidelines, uh, say, hey, rates are coming down, are going to go, going to go for it at 6% or what have you. And then folks who have been sitting on their homes who have wanted to sell, but they have 80, 75% of uh, their equity is tied up in house. Their mortgage is 75% of the house, but why should they leave their house when they're paying 3% or 4% and go and get a new house when it's 6%, right? When you're paying a substantial amount of your monthly payments, just going to go to more interest, right? You're not going to get more house unless you can afford to pay a heck of a lot more just to finance that interest. So hopefully that it's kind of my bull case, and I'll try and I was looking this week, and you start seeing run last week, and then I started trying to do the numbers, and even just on a revenue basis and compared to its peers, Redfin should be 14, 15, $16, but it's not. That's what the market's saying right now. It's a $9.50 stock. I don't think that's the case. Hopefully that changes. That's why I went and got those strikes. So that's Redfin. Oh, SE. So back over SE Limited over 83 today, even with the market weakness. I think that bodes well. And then not only that, you had NetEase earnings, Baidu earnings, and not that SE is in China, but the Asia whole conglomerate of all those stocks tend to trade in tandem. So the fact that SE can trade on its own merits, I think that bodes well. Still looking to lock some of my September's in to cover costs. I think they were 90 cents at one point. I don't have it up right now to see what those are. Uh, Once they get over $1, I'll look to lock some of my September strikes in to cover costs. And whether 81 by 88. So they're getting close. Once those get to $1, I'll lock those in, and then I'm looking for later dated strikes. It's almost, to me, it's not the most volatile name right now. It is up and down, but I think it's churning, and then the next leg is to the upside. And you start looking at the chart. It's almost like the last couple sessions trading over here $80. It's consolidating and then off to the next leg. So that's SE. Clear Secure. I posted this on the FinTwit into the chat room. Almost looks like a bull flag setting up, and it's had a massive run. I think it's up like 40% over the last couple of weeks after its earnings. It's a divisive name, huge short interest, but again, it's like one of the most fundamentally sound companies. It has a huge compounded annual growth rate. It's like 40%. It's just it's a story where if you're a bear, you can build a bear case around it because there's no moat. It's not it's like they're a fruit stand at a restaurant or a supermarket, right? Except what they do is very well. They do it very well, and they have lots of partnerships and stuff. Anybody can open a fruit stand somewhere. It's just you have to execute at a high level, and that's what Clear has. And they've overcome a lot of hurdles, and now they have the TSA Plus partnership and things like that. So I can go on rants for a while on that. At some point, once the September's strikes get over 100%, I'll lock some of those in and ride the rest of those. I don't know why. I don't know why I don't have MDB puts on here or the chart, but I added some MDB spec puts earlier today. I put it on the watch list this morning. Some of that is wrapped around Snowflake, right? So Snowflake, I thought they reported a great earnings. If they reported their quarter today, 2 years ago or 3 years ago, the stock would be up 10, 15%. But it seems like the cloud names have kind of lost their luster. And typically when Snowflake sells off, MDB sells off kind of almost in tandem. So I was surprised. So this morning I'm watching a couple different names, and I was looking to get some possible spec puts on MDB, but it drops at the open, and then pretty much right after the open, it bounces back to 255, 258. I'm like, wow, maybe people are going to say the weakness in snow means it's going to trade an inverse, that the MDB is going to get a bid. But then it started fading, and then I'm like, well, people probably just don't, maybe there's not enough sellers in there, or whatever the case may be. And then it started to break 251, 252, and that's when I went and got some spec puts. Hopefully, and they might be close to a double right now. I'll look to close some of those before the end of the day if I can for over 100% or 100%, and then ride the rest. Kind of almost as a double double whammy. The hedge for Powell tomorrow, if there's prepared statements before the open, hedge for market weakness, and then I think it can almost fall even if the market goes up, because if you take a look at Snow, it just, if there was an earnings report that you would think would be bullish, it was a good earnings report, you know. So, and you still have. It's funny, you go back. I think Snow was a $420 stock like 2 years ago. Doesn't mean that's where it goes, but it's funny how like sectors change and sentiment changes and valuations change. MDB too. I mean, what was $500 stock 6 to 12 months ago? I don't I don't even have it on the. Yeah, it was $500 back in February, 510. So not saying that, it's not a great company, it's not a great story. Doesn't have the chance to go back there. I just think there's a short-term opportunity. Obviously, I have strikes that expire tomorrow, so I'm just looking for a short-term trade, and I think it'll offer not only protection from downside, but also I think it could go further to the downside on its own merits. And I put it on the watch list too. If you look at the daily chart, the 50-day moving average it's 244.15 now. So if that breaks, it's like, it's kind of, and I use this analogy a lot, or description or metaphor, whatever you want to call it, the trap door, right? So a lot of times, and I always look at moving averages, right? Because to me, moving averages, when you look at charts are history lessons, right? It's where people have bought, where people have sold, where they like the stock, where they don't like the stock, and 50-day moving average kind of mellows all those trends out, and that's why I think they're so important. So when you look at a 50-day moving average on MDB, once that breaks, that to me that's bearish, right? That's where uh, bulls have decided, hey, we don't want to, we're gonna, our limits are hit or stops are hit or whatever, and we'll wait for a better opportunity to get in. And not saying that's going to happen. I mean, hopefully it does, because I'm into puts on MDB into tomorrow. But if that 244.415 breaks, I think under 240 is possible in tomorrow. So thought process there, or the rationale, but behind that trade, and hopefully I'll get the opportunity to close some out to cover costs before the close and go from there. And I think that's it, folks. Let's have a great afternoon. Thanks for listening. I'll be back on audio tomorrow. Rock and roll.